Welcome to another video. As some teams have already beaten Savage and we already got some decent numbers in, alongside numerous balancing changes with the patch 6.4, I guess we might be able to take a glimpse at this tier's meta placement for each job. Regardless, like always, you will be disappointed by this list, and I do suck indeed. So please refrain from flooding the comment section by pointing out the obvious. Each and every job will be able to clear this Savage or Ultimate, and you should always prioritize personal preference over anything here. Above that, always check out your sources of trust on the interweb or get Yoshi-P on the phone so that he can make your job the one and only god tier mother. Alright, starting with tanks this time around, as I do believe, while being super close on the power tests I did, they fall apart quite decently in actual fights due to how Paladin is designed still, and how much easier a warrior can park its damage inside of the boss's facial area, which kinda counts for the Gunbreaker too. Nevertheless, balancing is still going strong and those differences are marginally being fought on the DPS side of things. So when separating them, it's more on what they do offer on the defensive side. And as the Dark Knight just lost its killer advantage of being simply more powerful than the competition, the same arguments will stand for my last tier list. With early Endwalker patches, especially for Blood Weapon and Living Dead, the Dark Knight is right up there with the others when it comes to mitigation and avoiding crucial mechanics. And while many people consider the warrior to be the #1 tank for mitigation and self-sustain, which is indeed true for dungeons, extreme trials or hardcore Final Fantasy, but in Savage or even Ultimate the tides turn a bit because of potion and self-healing losing the value. Just in case you want to go for the Omega Protocol Ultimate, which is the newest and probably toughest ultimate fight, without taking a single healer with you, warriors and paladins are a must, which leads to the paladin being a phenomenal off-tank, but just lacking a bit of flexibility. Even though Square addressed many problems of the Paladin rotation with 6.3, yet it falls short slightly, except you go for, yes, top without a healer. So counting all that together, for the insane damage output and Dark Knight losing the upper hand on the damage thrown, while Gunbreaker just being rock solid over the whole expansion due to Heart of Corundum and big DPS values, it is between the man and gun mode on A+, while I would set down Paladin and Dark Knight a mild note to A. Coming to the caster jobs, which open up a bit more of a discussion this time around, but for the short form, Black Mage's buff were much heavier than I thought, and this job is topping nearly every chart right now. On the second Savage fight in particular, there seems to be one player that dominated so hard that the other grads lose impact by a lot. So I guess if you're up for the task and have faith in your skills, positioning and timing, Black Mage might be one of the top picks right now. And as it falls into the caster category for all things limit break and damage bonus that you want for your party, we just cannot grant Red Mage or Summoner the same spot with such a vast disparity in damage output. However, these are always insanely useful for proc, so due to their raising capabilities we should not neglect their position on the high tier. One thing though, Red Mage is slightly less flexible than the Endwalker Summoner is, so it might need a mild positional adjustment for your party from time to time, especially as they have pushed up the resource gains of the Red Mage in this expansion, so you find yourself inside of the melee spot more often. So with the total number of parsers in mind and Red Mage falling short on the last spot of the list, even though the difference is not big, Summoner goes onto A and Red Mage onto A-. But as being able to raise is an unbeatable condition, I would personally boost them by half a tier. For the ranged physicals, it's kinda the same story, but without the machinist taking up the Black Mage role. It should actually be this way, but somehow Square did stop buffing the job that had been left back in the corner for way too long. Yet it is still fine, just not much scalable as the others, so with higher gear and overall DPS output of the entire party, the machinist's value diminishes a bit, which actually should be the same case for the Black Mage, but somehow the patch turned it into a monster. Dancer and Bard are actually very close to each other. While the best dancers are outperforming the top bards, the median here is achieving quite the opposite due to how much more a dancer performance is depending on their dance partner. Overall, all fit into what they should offer. Lots of flexibility and a blessing to every player proccing fresh content, while searching for that insane movability and rotational flexibility, where these three jobs really beat out the competition. So considering the range tags, I would still put all of them on A, because they perform evenly and get outleveled by the melee jobs, even though they offer mitigation that is not seen on the list here. Which leads us into the next category. Here things spice up a bit, but that is more following on the reason of how raid encounters are designed. However, as Monk and Reaper are gaining a slight advantage over their spear and knife wearing competition, the actual clear parties of the last boss within its second phase are Dragoon, Samurai and Ninja, to the time of making this video. leading to the conclusion that you can take whatever you prefer here, with the Reaper and Monk offering utilities for the party that the others only have for themselves. So according to the damage and the top no healer clear featured a Reaper and a Monk, I would put these on S tier and Dragoon and Ninja on A+. But what about the Samurai though? It's a chart topper by design, and when you're all about A DPS, so the biggest number you can push out in your little parser, Samurai is the way to go, with or without chitin. But you could easily disagree here, like you could on basically all my choices though. In my opinion, a chitinless S tier. Last but not least, the healers. What looks quite balanced on the DPS output chart does form a different picture on healing, where shields might be necessary to survive mechanics, or at least they are insanely powerful to use against them. Back in Shadowbringers I remember that it was quite the opposite, but now with a clear 2 shield healers and 2 hot healers separation, Square Enix might have designed fights with this in mind. Yet I still feel that the buffs to Sage and also its non-linear scaling pay out now and transform this job into a true chart topper. Yes, charts are not as important for the healers as they are for DPS or tanks, but if you win at healing and damage categories both, it might be an indication. So Sage is definitely leaving its footprint here on the S spot, but from the total amounts of parsers, the other jobs are still played more. Especially the White Mage, which might be due to its simple approach to healing and sticking with the standard scheme of I click a button, I restore health. Or just that the Lily system had been redesigned nicely to finally make sense, which happened some patches ago. Scholar still has the sprint trick up its sleeve, so a utility tool that no chart can show, where Astrologian does indeed have the solid tank heal formula, but White Mage's benediction has great synergy with tanks killing themselves with their living super belites. So it is really up to you here, and as I've granted the Sage an S spot for now, putting the others anywhere below A+ doesn't really make much sense. But anyways, take all of this with a grain of salt and play the job you like the most, as balancing is still darn fair and nothing you should ever worry about. I mean, in Shadowbringers we had summoners dealing as much damage as Black Mages, sometimes even more, so we are far away from that scenario. Overall, a really good job from Square Enix again on the balancing, even though I would say it was slightly better before 6.4. But more importantly, what do you think? I would love to hear your thoughts and personal rankings inside the comment section. Until next time, have lots of fun with the final raid tier of Endwalker, and like always, keep loving Final Fantasy.